Behavior questions are always the part of the interview, and this round actually decides your selection. As through this round, interviewer checks whether you are fit with the culture of the organizations or not. So, if you let's say got the call from the Amazon, then before appearing for the interview with Amazon, it is very important to know the Amazon leadership principle. So, it's better that you should map your skills with Amazon leadership principle. So, let's see this principle one by one. So, the first principle is customer obsession. So, as it is clear from the name itself, just focus on the customer requirements, and the first priority should be deliver product which satisfy the customer requirements. So what I mean is more focus on the latency aspects, like what is the response time of your feature, rather than providing hundred of features to the customers. So response time, latency time, these things matters a lot for a particular product. All the basic need of the customer should be fulfilled it with good latency, because if your feature is more responsive, it means it's having the more customer adaptability, and later on when you release this particular product or the feature, then you can add more and more feature on top of that. So that is the meaning of the customer obsessions. And then we have the ownership principle. So basically you need to think of a complete project delivery as your goal, rather than just considering your features or your module in that project. So especially in case of the integration project where many teams or let's say many modules are involved. So most of the time, for example, let's say if the issue reported from the customer, so whether it's a issue of your feature or not, just start debugging it. So you are taking the ownership and try to unblock the customer. Whether it's your feature or your module or not, it doesn't matter. You take the ownership of it. So like that, the similar example will be, let's say, while testing your feature, you find the issue in some other module, then take ownership and try to fix it. So that is the meaning of the ownership here. Then the third principle is invent and simplify. So let's try to understand this leadership principle with example. Consider when we get a new feature or let's say some critical problem to solve, don't try to use all the fancy technical stuff you know, because just think simple. That's what the meaning of this particular principle. Don't go for the complex solutions. If the problem is difficult, it doesn't mean the solution is also difficult. This leadership principle advocate you to start with the simple approach for any complex problems. So let's say if you are working on some project, so rather than start implementing some algorithms from the scratch, try to use some already available APIs or the libraries which might already been implemented in some other project. So that is the meaning of invent with simplicity. Now the next leadership principle is leader are right a lot. So this is one of the very important principle of Amazon. This leadership principle has been misunderstood by most of the people. So it means at every level, decision should be taken. Not just it's a responsibility of the senior leaders or the architects or the managers has the responsibility to take decisions. No, the decision should be taken at every level. Like for example, even a newly hired engineer can also take decisions and present his views with valid data points. Like for example, let's say just consider one similar example. Mostly it happens in the product or projects while working. So let's say there is a very mature product which was running in the production from the last 2 years. Now all the senior leaders or all the managers are very happy with the product as it is mostly stable in the production. But during discussion with the customer, you figure it out that multiple customers are facing one very basic issues while using your product. So now, if you think this operational optimization is required, then take stand. Present this point in coming sprints meeting and prioritize it. So as a newly hired engineers or let's say as a junior engineer, you can also take decisions and prioritize the work as per the need, because our first criteria is customer obsessions. We need to satisfy the customer. So that's why even the newly hired engineer can take decisions and present his view with all the valid data points. So that is the meaning of leaders are right a lot. Now the next leadership principle is learn and be curious. So, as it is clear from the name itself, this principle applied for every level of engineers in Amazon. So, for developer, it means don't get used to the technology or think of doing some improvising or learning new technology. Never ever become comfortable with the existing technology. Like you have seen in many times, once our product becomes stable, we even stop thinking of improvising it. And in fact, most of the time you have seen engineers afraid of changing the existing code. They think that it might break something. But you should be always curious and learn new technology and try to apply it. Now the next principle is hire and develop the best. So this leadership principle promptly focus on the senior engineers. Seniors or the leaders need to identify the candidates which has the long-term growth potentials. Also, they should recognize the exceptional talent within the team and willingly move the talent throughout the organizations. So basically, this leadership principle is only for the leaders or the managers. Leaders should always look for the top talent and give them the opportunity to grow. They don't hold back people, but use their influence to maximize the potential of those newcomers, or let's say the engineers who are good at their work. So Amazon invest in the people that have the potential to develop into the top performers. So that is the meaning of hire and develop the best. Let's see other leadership principle. So the first one is here, insist on higher standards. This principle also based on the role for which you are applying for in the Amazon. For developers or let's say for the architect, it means the standard of the code and the design should be very high. Like for example, previously you used to write the code and verify using the unit testing, which of course won't cover all the scenarios. So you raise the bar for your code standards. Rather than the unit test, your team prefer to go for the automation Jenkins pipelines testing as well as the deployment. So what it will happen? It catches the edge cases and it saves a lot of effort of the engineers. So it means you are consistently hiring the bar for your coding as well as the designing standard for your project. So that is the meaning of this particular principle. Now we have the think big, or you can think of it like a scalable system. So every product or the feature while designing should be imagined with a high scale users. Scale is always growing. So basically most of the project whatever we are designing nowadays are the distributed systems which will be mostly used by the billions of users. So the system we are designing now should be managed to scale. That's what the meaning of this leadership principle. Your system should work in the more diverse business use cases. So that's how you need to design and develop your products. So you need to always think big for designing any system. And then we have the bias for actions. So let's try to understand this with the help of here. This is the leadership principle image that we have. So it means speed matters in a business. Whatever you're designing or whatever you're developing, speed matters a lot. So it means don't think of designing system perfect in the first goal. Of course, it's not possible. Always develop things and then launch. And then keep on revisiting on that, whatever you are developing. That is the meaning of incremental growth. So basically, in the face of uncertainty, these individual small releases will eventually make your product perfect. Don't think of going deep and taking a lot of time and try to come up with a perfect solution. It's not possible because speed matters a lot. So just go for the incremental kind of release for developing any kind of a product. Now we have the frugality. So frugality, as it is clear from the name itself, accomplish more with less constant breed. So what it means? It means use resources when it's really required. So whatever you are trying to achieve, try to achieve that with the minimum number of resources or try to consider the less budget whenever you try to develop any kind of a project. So that is the meaning of the frugality in this case. The less leadership principle is earn trust. So this is one of the very important Amazon leadership principle. Let's try to understand this principle with the help of example. Consider one scenario. If your team member see that you are willingness to take the blame for the good of the team, even if it's not directly your fault, then they will start to let go things and start trusting you. So as a leader of a team, you need to accept the responsibility for both the good as well as the bad. So to earn the trust, it is very important to keep your commitments. Along with that, treating others and their ideas with the respect always. So it will eventually earn the trust within your team. Then start admitting your failures as well. Because as you admit your failures, your team member will start trusting you more. And then the last one is listening, communicating, and delegating to help employees to get the right things done. So all this quality will eventually earn the trust within your team. And then we have the dive deep. So now most of the people will confuse this principle with the bias for actions. So let's try to understand this with the help of example. Let's say you are working on a project and suddenly one ticket has came and that ticket is having the high priority. So as a developer, your responsibility is you need to first mitigate the issue, like try to unblock the customers rather than try to go deep and try to find out the root cause of it. So as a developer, just mitigate the issue and unblock the customer. And once it is done, then you should go deep dive and try to find out the root cause of it. Because ultimately your first goal is the customer obsession. So customer should be unblocked first and then later on you can go deep and try to find out the root cause of a particular issue, why it has come. That is the meaning of the dive deep. And then we have the have backbone, disagree and commit. So as it is clear from the name itself, even if everyone disagree with you, you should always give your approach with complete data points. Like let's say you are presenting some idea in a team and everyone is disagreeing with you, but you try to prove your points with all the valid facts. It's completely okay to disagree with everyone if your points are valid. So it doesn't mean that you don't put your points in front. You always need to put your points and then try to prove that with the help of valid data points. That is the meaning of have backbone, disagree and commit. And then we have the deliver results. So this is the last leadership principle of Amazon. So as the name suggests, you need to deliver your features on time with quality, but also you should know how to prioritize your deliverables. Like in any circumstances or any situations, let's say you are working on a parallel task. In that situation also you need to deliver the results. Or let's say some of the team members are not well and you need to work on a multiple task parallelly. In that case also you're supposed to deliver the result. So that is the meaning of this deliver result principle.